That's some good water. Hey, folks. Hope everybody is doing well. Grading on the curve of current events. I remember when we were several months into COVID and it was becoming clear that it wasn't going to wrap up quickly. I remember that, when people ask me how I am, I would say that, scaling for COVID, I'm fine. And I feel like I'm there again, not just because COVID hasn't gone away, but because now it's, scaling for America. I'm fine. I don't live in America, so I'm better than most. I mean, well, depending on where you do live, there's plenty of other going on. Yeah. But it's good to see everybody. I'm going to actually make sure that the shirt gets a proper look in. So give me a second here. So this, I feel, is important because that is more than ever my current mood. So, HiHoSilverworks.com. If you enjoy the design, they make amazing stuff, and they are coming out with new designs soon, which is wonderful. So, reminder at the start. If you're new here, I do try and keep up with the chat. I do not guarantee that I will see a comment. The only thing that will guarantee it will be to do it as a super chat, in which case I will guarantee to read and respond to your comment or question. You'll also get a heart from me in appreciation. The other way is that if you are a Patreon supporter, on the Council of Geeks Discord, there is a channel devoted to asking questions on here. I am going to add an additional thing, though, because last time people kept adding more questions as I was trying to get through them. Once I make the switch over to the Discord to look at those comments, that's the cutoff. So any new things written after I start going over those, I'm not going to take them in. So if you have questions to put in the Discord server, do so now or over the next half hour or 40 minutes or so, because once I'm over there, I'm not going to take in new questions because it kind of dragged on for more than it was intended to. Up here in Canada, our government keeps budgeting and policying to the assumption that we saved tons staying home. All right. Nice chest and yeah mood. Yeah, I was kind of showing off the rack a little bit. Went to a Pride production of Rocky Horror on Saturday. Ooh, that does sound nice. Have I seen ContraPoint's latest tweets today? Funny yet frightening. I actually don't follow ContraPoints on Twitter. There are a number of creators who I enjoy their work, but I don't follow on Twitter just because I do my best to curate my Twitter feed fairly narrowly. So no, I haven't. It's sad that guns have more rights than us. Oh, guns have far more rights. And they are having any restrictions on their rights steadily stripped away while our actual rights are being stripped away. Yeah, this I don't want this to be a downer of a stream, but like it's going to come up. I know that. I know you said cops don't belong at prides. How do you feel in light of the Proud Boys incident? I'm assuming Black Cover, you mean the thing in Idaho. I don't think that was actually the Proud Boys. I think that was a different group. And actually, I'm not mad that you asked, because a number of people did. And the short version is that actually does not alter my opinion at all. So for people who don't know, in Idaho, there were, I think, 31? I think it was 31 members of an extremist Patriot Front. Thank you, B. Parker. Of an extremist far-right group who were all packed into a U-Haul, and they were on their way to Pride, basically to cause havoc and chaos at a Pride event. And they were arrested before they got there. Now, prior to that happening, I have put out a short video stating my assertion that I do not believe on-duty cops have any place at Pride events. With the understanding that with certain types of events like parades, sometimes the police have to be involved to cordon off streets or whatever. That accepted. And initially I got pushback, people saying, well, what about security? Well, first of all, for events like Pride, the event organizers are empowered to run their own security. That's why you have bouncers at clubs instead of cops. But a lot of people asked after that thing happened where Patriot Front got arrested before they got to a Pride event. And some people asked me, kind of in the way you did, which was to say, does this change your opinion? Other people tried to use it as a gotcha on me, like, oh, bet you are happy for the cops now. Here's the thing, and here's why it does not alter my opinion. They were not stopped by the presence of police at Pride. They were stopped and detained because the police responded to a call they got about suspicious activity, which is what's supposed to happen. That's their job. And investigating suspicious activity, they arrested these people. They arrested them before they arrived at Pride. So the first thing that I have to stress, these people were not stopped because there was an active police presence at Pride. They weren't. That's not why they were stopped. And I still hold not in my belief that not only is there no place for active on-duty cops just patrolling a Pride event, because whatever potential, and it is potential and theoretical, and I'll come back to that in a second, whatever potential or theoretical benefit that their presence would lend if a crisis were to happen in real time, that is a hypothetical benefit. Whereas the immediate impact of their presence being the intimidation factor of having an arm of the state present at what is still, and even more so now that it has been in a while, a protest event, no, I'm not okay with that. And I'll also reassert, and I feel very comfortable saying this, especially the more that we find out about what did or did not happen at the Uvalde school shooting, I am not confident that if something were to actually happen, if, say, the Patriot Front did get to the Pride event and enact their plan to mess people up, I honestly do not believe that the presence of police would have helped the situation. I think at best it would have added to the chaos and potentially could have made things much, much worse. So, no, that did nothing to change my opinion. I think the Proud Boys incident was that a Proud Boy entered a library waving a gun while drag queens were reading books to kids. Ah, yes. No, that does not change my opinion either. Because if your solution to assholes with guns showing up at a children's event is to post people with guns at the same event, no, your entire approach, your solution is working backwards, which is the fundamental problem with how we approach gun, quote unquote, safety in this country in the first damn place. Anyways, I did get membership renewal from Michael Anderson Doyle. 7 months of love and geekdom and fun. In 7 days, I get my WPATH letter. And the day after that, HRT. I am very happy for you. I really am, Dharma. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed your break. I did. I mean, Friday wasn't fun, but, you know, seems like we all get ready to go on vacation and relax, and then the world has other plans. I mean, the world's gonna fall apart kind of regardless of what we do. So that's sort of I'm at a point like you have to try and have fun. You have to hold on to your joy because, like, a lot of the horrible stuff that's going on is going on regardless of whether we are miserable or finding joy. And I'm going to find as much joy as I can. I was planning to do it anyway, but I'll tell you, going to a Ren fair this past weekend was extra cathartic. Being able to pretend I lived in a different time and environment than the one I actually live in. Plus, firing the longbows felt really good. I like winning the archery contests. I'll just be upfront about that. In some better news, I got my video essay on Amy's Choice finally out. Oh, very nice. I cited one of your videos on worst comic tropes. Yes. Somehow I made a link there. Thank you. I'll try and check that out at some point. Vacuum of comments. There's going to be a Kurt Cobain biopic. What are your thoughts? I don't like biopics as a genre, so neutral to please don't. Hey, kind of take your pick. Vera, your live stream title gives me, so tell me, what's become of my ship? Yep. John Vinyls, thank you very much for the super chat. I did not expect Vera to get philosophical in this session. I mean, I've got a stein of water, and I've been mulling over a lot of nonsense. So yeah, yeah, it was probably gonna happen. What's the story behind your thumbnail today? I'm queer and pissed. It's pretty straightforward. Also, I'm 6 months on HRT. Congratulations, Jamie. That's wonderful. I like your earrings. I actually bought these at the Ren Fair. From one of the from one of the stalls that there's some of them. There's some of the vendors you're like, you people are. So, like, in one of them, amongst other leatherworks available, this wasn't the same one I bought this from, but among other leatherworks available, there were very lovely floggers. Like, they were real pretty. They were too expensive. They were too rich for my blood, but they were real pretty. And then the stall where I got these, which also have a rune on them, which I like. And they had these various harnesses, buckles and leather, and especially I saw one like on sort of a mannequin bust as a display. I'm like, that's just a kink harness. They're just selling it. But there's so many leather straps and buckles that you see at a Ren fair. Like, I get how they kind of snuck it under the radar, but I spot that. I'm like, you don't normally sell that to Ren fair crowd, or at least not normally for Ren fair purposes. Biopics can be good. Look at Rocketman. Oh, of course they can be good, but I don't like the genre. Like, I can find examples of good movies in virtually any genre, but that doesn't mean that I like the genre any better. Sorry, give me a second. Hi, Vera. I just wanted to say that you've really helped me feeling comfortable with being gender fluid, as there is a lot of stigma behind it, as I'm only 16 and people act like it's not real. Amelie, the thing that I can tell you is, especially at the age of 16, the main thing that you lack, versus someone of my age, is an ability to fully, properly curate your surroundings. And that can make things really difficult. If you are in a place in a situation where you feel unaccepted or ridiculed or just where you don't fit, at the age you're at, your ability to extricate yourself from that is is very limited. Sorry, hang on one second. All right, that's fine. But one of the benefits, like, there's a lot that sucks about being an adult. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. However, one of the good things is it enhances your ability to be able to curate your surroundings and determine the kind of people that are going to have access to you. There's still going to be some things you can't help. You can't always help what kind of coworkers you get, but you can decide who you spend your time with. You can decide who has access to your time, as opposed to just being, you have to deal with this friend pool that's at school. You know, you live with your parents. The freedom to curate your chosen family is going to do a lot to cut down on things like people claiming that your identity is made up. And the thing that I always think when people make claims like that, when they say something like gender fluid doesn't exist, my question is always, okay, assume you're right. What's the harm? And the dickheads will go, well, I'm not going to enable your delusion. And my answer to that is still going to be, what is the harm? Unless you think me a dangerous person, what harm does it do to allow me my identity that does nothing but enhance my sense of self and has no negative impact on anyone else around me? And some people will have very twisted conspiratorial reasons why they think it's still wrong. Some people will just be dicks. But the simple thing is, even if it's made up, so what? I mean, it's not. To be very clear, being gender fluid is not invented. It's not made up. But even if it is, so what? What do you care? The people who say that it's not real, so what? What difference does that make to you? You let people have the things that make them feel better about their own existence. Why would you want to take that from somebody? And the thing is, I know there are lots of people out there who actively want to take joy and happiness away from people. And I don't understand. And I never will. I will never understand what is gained by attempting to strip someone of the things that impact nobody but themselves and that make them happy. I don't understand that as an impulse. I don't want to jinx it, but are you particularly surprised it looks like we're going to get out of Pride Month without a parade being shot up? No, I actually did not think that would happen. I know lots of people were very afraid, but the thing is, the thing about mass shooters is they go to crowded places. It's very rare that they go to legitimately packed places. They go to places where lots of people already are. You know, that's why they target schools, workplaces, churches sometimes. But the number of people at a Pride event, and especially the number of people who frankly would have been on edge and looking for your hostile ass at a Pride event, I actually wasn't expecting something like that to happen. I'm not going to say I had no fear of it. I had a little. But I didn't think it would. And fingers crossed, last few days, it won't. Let's see here. I enjoyed your review of Stranger Things. Thank you, Vanessa. It hasn't gotten as much pushback as I was afraid it was going to get. It's gotten a little, though. Dominic Noble once pointed out that Amazon sold the leather harness he bought for cosplay as both cosplay and kinkwear. The kinkwear was cheaper. It was the same harness. Yeah, Amazon's such a freaking scam. I don't know if you're the right person to ask. A member of my immediate family is anti-abortion. I'm pro-choice. Is trying to change their mind being disrespectful to them and their opinion? I think in a lot of ways, Jamie, it's going to depend on why they hold that opinion. Because while I wish that nobody held the opinion that the life of something that cannot live outside of the womb is more important than the life of a living, breathing human being. Some people do have that conclusion, and different people arrive at that in different ways. Some people come at it from a religious perspective, which that's probably the one where there's going to be the least good that can come out of trying to break them from that. Because if their anti-abortion stance is a function of their religious beliefs, then attacking that stance to them is going to feel like attacking their entire belief system. And that's not a conversation that's going to go well for anybody. However, there are other people who make other arguments. And depending on what their argument is and what their position is, there may be ways to be able to talk to them about it that is respectful. As I said, the religious justification for being anti-abortion is probably the biggest thing to just not bother. And that's not to say that, like, there's no way to persuade such people, but don't bring logic to a religion fight. If that makes sense. There was a phrase that went around leftist spaces a few years ago, and it's still helpful to remember. You can't logic someone out of a position they didn't logic themselves into. And that's usually used in terms of people who hold a position for emotional reasons, which can also happen with abortion, but especially with something religious. If the basis for somebody's actions is a religious belief, no argument made by someone outside of that religious belief that doesn't take their faith into account is ever going to be helpful. That having been said, if it is a religious basis, I think the thing that might be worth doing is that pushing back on the idea of, well, if you're so pro-life and you think all life is precious, are you pushing for these other things? This is actually something that it's going to feel weird to say. I want to give a little bit of props to the Catholic Church. Not a ton. They are anti-abortion. However, the Vatican put out a really interesting statement in regards to what's going on in America right now, because the Catholic Church is anti-abortion. However, they're also looking at a lot of other stuff going on in America and going, this is not pro-life. You can't claim to be pro-life while doing nothing to rein in guns. You can't claim to be pro-life while having no safety net for children once they are born. You can't claim to be pro-life and be trying to expel or prevent immigrants from arriving in your country because they're not safe in their home countries. So I think if someone has a religious objection to abortion, maybe your energy is better spent pushing back on going, okay, if you're pro-life, is it just fetus, or are you actually going to fight for any of this other stuff that's really messed up? So maybe rather than trying to break them out of the abortion position, you can redirect, again, depending on where it's coming from, you can redirect that same energy into better use. You know, the energy that they're putting into wanting abortion to end, like, okay, well, you got what you wanted there. How about next you start on the guarantee of family leave? How about that? How about we start working on the gun thing? You know, it would be, it's not going to happen, but it would be a very pleasant surprise if right to life people would actually expand that out to any point past when the child is born. And as a collective, as a political body, they won't. On an individual one-on-one basis, maybe some of them will. Let's see where I am here. Which Doctor Who episode got you the most backlash? I assume you mean review. Probably Village of the Angels. I really thought that thing fell apart hard. Really hard. And everybody else loved it. And people came at me hard for not thinking that episode was very good. Or not thinking that it stayed good, at least. And thinking that its good ideas came to nothing. Even within the episode itself. I got a lot of crap for that. At least at the time. Vera, I've officially moved into my new house, which was an absolute nightmare. Moving often is. So I'm glad you got through it at least. My father used to say in his southern accent, "Do I smell the smell of hypocrisy?" There was a TikTok that I saw. I actually saved this. I showed it to my partner Liz. I'm just gonna cop right now. This stream's gonna run longer than usual. I'm looking at the time. I'm looking at the pace I'm going through this. We're gonna run longer than usual. I'm just owning that at this point. But short version of this TikTok, this guy talks about going to a tractor pull, and there was this guy who was there, effeminate in this pink cowboy hat and pink getup. And there was this other couple of guys behind him, and one of them looks at the guy in all the pink and goes, "Ugh, why would you go to a tractor pull dressed like that?" And the guy who was with him goes, "Being able to dress like that is his God-given right. What the fuck do you think freedom means, Earl?" Apologies for anyone who doesn't care for the term, but I deeply love liberal rednecks. They are the best. They are the best. Did I see the trailer for Hocus Pocus 2? I did. I don't care, but I did, yes. Let's see here. Oh, Supreme Omega. Thank you very much for the super chat. On the MCU, Ms. Marvel, is 6 episodes really enough time to properly adapt the comics? Wouldn't 13 episodes or even the classic 22 episode format have been more ideal? I'll have a more fully formed opinion on that when it finishes. However, I am already planning a video on how the interconnectedness of the MCU is beginning to harm the storytelling. And the short episode lengths, I do feel, is related to that, because they're not treating these as shows or even really fully self-contained stories. They are treating them as supplements to the movies, and it's hurting them. So, stick a pin in that. Come back to it later in the month. Well, later next month. I say later in the month. Month's almost over. Let's see. Try and catch up again. Question about Harley Quinn. I stopped halfway through season 2, episode 8. How do they handle the whole Kite Man situation? Did they F it up, or did they stick the landing? Don't care about spoilers. I thought they handled that pretty well. Because... So, without getting into super amounts of detail, basically, the issue, it was Ivy's issue. Because Ivy did like him and cared about him, but obviously was being pulled towards Harley. But it's not like she didn't like him. But eventually, he hit a point where he just kind of went, all right, this is clearly not working. And I know you say you care about me, and it's not that I don't believe you, but this is, and especially in the specific situation where things went in the direction, he's just kind of like, I can't. This has gotten out of control, which I think was a decent way to handle it. I hear he's getting a spinoff potentially. Did I see Lightyear? No, I have no interest in seeing Lightyear. I just don't think it was a good idea for a movie. I don't understand why they thought that was a good idea. And I'm sure it's fine, but I don't care. John Vinyls, thank you once again. Ever been to Connecticut, by the way? By and large, I have been through Connecticut. That is my standard relationship with Connecticut. Because I used to live in New York, and my family was still in Vermont. And this was back when I was with my kid's mother, and her family was in New Hampshire. So we would regularly go through Connecticut. Not really a place that I stopped. Connecticut drivers drove me up the wall, though. I can tell you that. I know everyone bitches about Massachusetts drivers, and they are a handful. But Connecticut, you folks don't know how to freaking merge. Every time, every point in the highway where lanes merged, it would just stop dead. And not because there was an accident or even that much excessive traffic. It's just because you don't know how to freaking merge in that state. What is it? What did I think of Kenobi God mode when he started to throw rocks and beat Vader? I was fine with it. I thought it was fine. I mean, I could actually see that part because lightsabers were fired up as opposed to whole chunks of that episode that I couldn't see. Excuse me. On the other end of the position, are there any Doctor Who episodes you really love that everyone else completely trashes? I think the one that I really love that, I'm not going to say people trash it, but the people who don't like it really don't like it, is Can You Hear Me? I like Can You Hear Me a lot. Like a lot. I love that episode. A lot of people were kind of middling on it, and some people really hated it. But I like that one a lot. The Man Who Fell to Earth sequel series came and went, it seems. Oh, that was a thing? Okay. I'm mainly intrigued to see it because of Bill Nye taking over Bowie's role. Huh. Well, that's interesting casting, at least. Thank you, Supreme Omega. Much appreciated. I know you're understandably sick of high school drama. So how about stories of college life or the drama of 20-somethings? Are you also tired of that? Slightly less, only because they tend to be less cliche-riddled than the high school stuff tends to be. That's the thing. Like, one of the other aspects that makes me really sick of high school stories is they are deeply mired in tropes and cliche. And there are tropes and cliches of college life and 20-something, but they're not as ingrained and as ground into the freaking dirt. So that helps. I don't know if you agree, by the way, but my biggest problem with The Timeless Child is that it feels like bad fan fiction. The Doctor being the child felt like the safest option, kind of. Here's the thing. I don't really get on board with a criticism that says it sounds like fan fiction. I'm not going to say, like, that I've never used it myself, because I probably have. But the thing is, that usually has more to do with execution than concept. I mean, the idea that Leia is Luke's sister, that sounds fan fiction-y. That sounds like the exact kind of thing a fan fiction writer would have done to go, oh, she's got better chemistry with Han, but what about Luke? I don't want to break Luke's heart. Oh, we'll just make them siblings, and then we'll never bring up the fact that they kissed before ever again. Like, that feels like fan fiction. But I think that has a lot more to do with execution than concepts. I will say, the thing to me, this isn't Doctor Who, the thing that to me felt like fan fiction was Rise of Skywalker. That one felt like fan fiction very specifically in the way it did the same crap that had already been done, just more. And there's a whole fleet of Star Destroyers, and they all have Death Star guns. And then every single ship, every single non-First Order ship in the entire galaxy shows up. And then Palpatine Force Lightnings the fleet. And then Rey beats Palpatine because she has 2 lightsabers. Like that. It's that one-upsmanship That felt like fan fiction. Just started Dead End Paranormal Park on Netflix. Is it on you and your kiddos' radar by chance? I'm loving it so much, Rep. I have never heard of that one, Remy. So I can't say it is. I do know that Owl House, last episodes of Owl House season 2 are finally going to be on Disney Plus tomorrow. So that'll be the priority for the kid first off. Feel free to disagree with me, but as someone who has been in that situation and has said what the doctor said, I feel the ending of Can You Hear Me is massively overhated. Yeah, when people hate on that, they tend to get very down on the doctor's response to Graham. And it's very strange to me that people read it as her not caring or read it as a joke. Because even on a rewatch, I don't understand that reading. And I don't want to presume this across the board, but that feels like the kind of reading that people who wanted a reason to hate it would have. Because, this doctor in particular is fairly neurodivergent coded, and her social awkwardness has been made flat out explicit and had attention brought to it repeatedly. So that to me felt like a very vulnerable moment where she admits that she doesn't know what to say to him. Rather than just letting the moment hang, she's like, look, I don't know what to say. Here's what I'm going to do because I have to do something, and I know it's not going to help, and I'll think of something to say later. That never struck me as dismissive. That, to me, felt vulnerable. That was her admitting she's not equipped to handle what he just laid down in front of her. So, what's a show I want a revival season from? I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm not a big fan of reviving old shows, by and large. I'd rather see new things, for the most part. Regarding the MCU, specifically Moon Knight, after the show ended, I went to see how they adapted Moon Knight. All I'll say is, holy hell, did they water him down? Yeah, Moon Knight's something, I'll tell you that. What are you hoping for in Jodie's last episode? What are you dreading they'll do? I'm still dreading that what's his face and who's her name from Flux are going to be revealed to be the Doctor's parents. I'm still afraid of that. What am I hoping for? To not hate it. That's kind of it. Doctor versus Rick Sanchez, who wins? I don't watch Rick and Morty because I cannot stand the characters. I do not want to spend time with them, so I have no opinion. I'm just imagining Obi-Wan's Force Ghost screaming in horror at the kiss scene in Empire. Oh, that's good. I like that. What's worse, Star Wars prequel trilogy, Rise of Skywalker or Star Chaser? Rise of Skywalker, because that capped off a good film followed by a film I didn't like, but at least was trying to do interesting stuff, and it capped it off with just nonsense. Star Chaser, you can get drunk and enjoy. And I've softened on the Star Wars prequels being terrible. I still don't like them, but whatever. Ridiculous question, but I'm curious. Back when you reviewed Timeless Child, you noticed you saw a leak related to it from weeks before. This caused any sort of trauma from any new leaks? No, I avoid leaks for this exact flippin' reason. Oh my God, looking forward to your take on the Collector in the Owl House. Well, we'll see. Sarvis, the Drow. Thank you very much for the super chat. I think my episode of Doctor Who that I like way more than anyone else is Power of Three, the one with the cubes. I really like that one. That episode, the ending is weird. In a way, in just a, that's how you're ending it kind of way. But up until towards the very end, it's really good. The character work in that is really good. The setup is great. The way it builds the tension, just seeing the Doctor's frustration at having to just go through time linearly. Linearly. La 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 la. That's great. I love that. Have I ever liked something out of spite? For example, I'm so tired of being bombarded by constant Last Jedi hate. It's fine if you don't like it, that I kind of like it now. I don't think so. Maybe? I don't think so, though. I know I've definitely disliked things out of spite, which isn't necessarily healthy, but have you listened to Jago and Lightfoot or anything with the Scorchies? I have not yet. I do have a collection of Jago and Lightfoot, but I have not I haven't gotten to that yet. One of these days. Finally done with Amphibia. I can check that off my list. Yes. Yeah, I need to shoot that review. I've seen the rest of it too. I'll get to the Discord. Calm yourself. Do you genuinely think Hellbent is the worst episode of Modern Who, or does the spot get taken by the Idiot's Lantern? No, the Idiot's Lantern is worse because the Idiot's Lantern is harmful. Hellbent is baffling. From a narrative standpoint, Hellbent's worse. But from an overall package, when you take into account the messages that are contained within it, Idiot's Lantern, I have a hard time believing I'll ever think an episode of Doctor Who is worse than the Idiot's Lantern. I have started watching season 3 of Umbrella Academy. I've got, I think, 3 episodes left to go. And yes, Victor was well handled. How was my break? It was great up until the very end there. Because Friday was... to quote Godzilla Mondaz's video on Moon Knight, they played it too safe and didn't take any risks, which is why I love Doom Patrol and a lot of DC stuff. They do take risks and don't apologize. I have started Doom Patrol. I need to get back to that at some point. But yes, I'm enjoying that a lot. The ending of Power 3 was a last-minute rewrite caused by the actor who was playing the villain giving an unusable performance. I've heard that. I haven't dug into the specifics on that, but yeah, I've heard that. Rumor has it Russell T Davies will be taking a WandaVision-like approach to the 60th special, hence the recasting of Rose. What are your thoughts if they do take that approach? Okay, first of all, unless I missed something from the BBC, that's not a recast of Rose, so far as I'm aware. I know a lot of people assumed it was. I don't know. I don't have thoughts on that. It depends on what they do with it. I'll have a thought when I see it. What do you think Chibnall's best Doctor Who and best Torchwood scripts? I can't remember all of his Torchwood episodes off the top of my head. I know Countryside was pretty good. The tail end of the stuff he did... If he wrote the first episode of Series 2, which I think he might have, if he did, that was really good. I can't remember if he did or not, though. As for Doctor Who, honestly, probably dinosaurs on a spaceship. Did I ever see Jupiter Ascending? No, I have not seen that one. Thought you weren't going to do a review of Amphibia. I wasn't going to do a review of season 2, but now that I've seen the whole thing, I'll do a final thoughts. I just remember if anyone thinks Star Wars: The Last Jedi was bad, just remember that in 1978, they had the Star Wars Holiday Special. If you haven't seen it, count your blessings. I've seen it. What is my biggest hope for RTD's Doctor Who run? And the Centenary was my biggest fear. My biggest fear is that he'll just slip back into doing what he did back in 2005. I don't think he'll do that, but that's my biggest fear. My biggest hope, I don't project a lot of hope beyond just hoping I like it. I want to see what they're going to do. I try not to come up with too many specific expectations. Do you think Doctor Who is going to dictate an episode to the events of this past week? Possibly a person with the initial R versus W trial? No, they won't. Absolutely not. I would be shocked if they did that. Have I watched The Boys or Invincible? No and no. Thoughts on American Graffiti? Haven't seen it in probably 20 years. So don't really have any. Did I watch Good Omens? I've got a review up on the channel. You can find it. Let's see. You have to be drunk to get through Jupiter Ascending. I've heard very mixed things. But anyways, I think, yeah, it's about time to hit up the Discord. Yes, thank you, Carolyn, for the reminder. There it is. All right. And so this is cut off. No more questions in the Discord. So there are quite a few in there. In future, I may have to have the cutoff be the time at the start of the stream, because I'm going to be on these for a while. So I think I might have to do that starting next time. I've noticed Stranger Things keeps doing a thing where outcast characters, nerds, and queer people assume Steve Harrington is going to be an asshole because he's a rich jock. Then they're surprised he's a nice guy. What are the Duffers trying to say with that? Too many people assume privileged white guys are jerks without meeting them. I get don't judge a book by its cover is usually a good message, but it seems like a problematic demographic to associate it with. Well, the thing to remember is Steve was supposed to die in season 1, but the actor, they liked him so much they kept him around and developed the character into one of my favorite characters on the show. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. So I don't think they're trying to say anything on purpose. That, of course, doesn't mean that they aren't saying things. There's subtextual messaging, whether you mean it to be or not. Is that a possible takeaway? Maybe, but the thing is, most of the primary villains are also influential white guys. You know, they are doctors. There's, oh God, Nancy's father's the biggest freaking tool on the planet. You know, excuse me. Especially now with season 4, where we've got, what's his name, Jason, as a direct counterexample. No, I don't feel comfortable in saying that he becomes a problematic character because of that. If there were fewer counterexamples, or if I felt like that was a more prominent aspect, because I think that was an accidental outcropping of he was just designed to be the high school privileged jerk. And so people assuming that he is that actually has more to do with the reputation he himself earned. So it's less don't judge a book by its cover than don't assume a person could never change. Because Steve did change. He got better. But he was that jerk for a while. So people's assumptions isn't really based off his look so much as his known history. The U.S. showed its true colors. It's worth being clear on this. The court showed its true colors. Because I think something that's very important for both the people within this country and across the world to remember, the things that are happening now, the weak-ass gun legislation, the striking down of gun restrictions by the court, the striking down of Roe v. Wade, while there is a vocal minority within the country that has wanted this, the majority of America does not want any of this. Trump was not elected with a majority of votes. Actually, in the last 20 years, or 22 years now, only once out of the 3 times that the conservatives have won, only once did they actually win the popular vote. Another 2 times they took power regardless. So this is something I need to remind myself, because while there's a lot about this country that I take a great deal of issue with, I need to remind myself that most people don't want what's happening. Our system is structured in such a way that the right, which is a minority, holds absolutely out of proportion power. And that's what we're dealing with. And that is horrifying. But I have to remind myself, this is not most people. And that doesn't make it any less dangerous, because it's insanely dangerous. However, It's important for me to remember that. Lest I fall into even greater despair. When you read the culture novels by Ian M. Banks, does it bother you that Banks uses it for entities that don't have gender? No, because pretty much all those entities are also non-human. So my problem with using it to describe a person, and I know there are some people out there who actually like the pronoun it for themselves, so no judgment on them, but barring those specific instances, my general issue with referring to people as it is that it is dehumanizing. But if you're going to call an alien species it, well, they aren't human. So, Would it be better to live in a world where everyone is born without sex and gets to pick their biological sex, or stay intersex at puberty? All right, so this is another reference to the culture novels. I think that a society where that situation was ingrained as the norm would probably be healthier. It's not something that, even if it was technologically possible, would probably be healthily integrated into the world as we currently have it. Require a major, major sea change in the general perspective of sex and gender. But I would expect that a society with that capability that made that choice probably has a healthier overall relationship with sexuality and gender as a whole, as a body, than what we have. When talking about abortion rights, should you say women or assigned female at birth, AFAB, people? Normally, I try to default to gender-neutral language, but I've heard some people argue you should actually say women in this instance because hatred of women is what's motivating all this nonsense, and using gender-neutral language works to obscure that somewhat. I don't have a firm opinion on that because I could argue it in either direction. On the one hand, like, they're not wrong. The thing that needs to always be remembered is that, again, while some individuals this may be true, but collectively, the anti-abortion movement is not and has never been about the safety of babies. It has been about control, and it has been about controlling the bodies of women. Now, it is also true at the same time that a decision like the one to overturn Roe v. Wade impacts a lot more than only the people who identify as women. And I'm not just talking about assigned female at birth people. I'm talking about the fact that this is actually going to negatively impact literally everybody of all genders. But that is splash damage that the people who enacted this do not care about. They don't care that it hurts transmasculine people. They don't care about the ways in which it will negatively impact men who may find themselves roped into child support situations that were suddenly unavoidable, or that they are forced to allow for another child to be added to a family that can't afford to support it, or any number of things. The fact that those people also suffer is just something that the anti-abortion groups don't care about. What they care about is controlling women. And, especially considering the fact that, most of the people who are anti-abortion aren't going to have a heck of a lot of respect or acknowledgement for trans-masc people anyways. I remember something like 15, 16 years ago when there was a trans-masculine man and a couple who got pregnant because his wife couldn't, so he carried the baby. And it was a feel-good story. It was a feel-good news piece. That is so weird to think about now. But in answer to your question, I don't have a firm answer. I can see the argument being made either way, because it does affect and very directly a lot more than just those who identify as women, but that is still who the primary target is. Ultimately, like, we're all fucked with this decision. So it's an argument that I'm not going to say is unimportant, but it's one that I don't feel strong enough about to weigh in on definitively. I'm so sick of people judging me for not being a doomer. While I completely understand it, if they have no optimism and hope for the future, then I don't need them in my life. That's fair. Like, I can be a very cynical, very pessimistic person. And actually, I'm going to bring something up that isn't even like in a question, but I'm going to bring it up anyway because I looked into it and I found that. So give me a second. Also, I'm glad I'm not in Red Bull's PR team right now because they're having idiots scream at them over one of their drivers using a racial slur, even though it was purely an understandable PR move. Some people just never learn. Lots of people never learn. But I know in regards to the sense of gloom and doom and the just the general atmosphere of what are we going to lose next? Because a certain justice, let's call him Terrence Clomas, signaled that he would really love the court to reconsider equal marriage rights, i.e. gay marriage, and the right to contraception, and a bunch of other stuff that he doesn't like. But here's something that I think, like, we should be worried. We should be worried because, again, they want these things gone because it gives them greater control. People who have control and have choices over their lives, who are not part of this group, who are not part of this conservative enclave, they want as many choices and options stripped from those people as possible so they can better be controlled. So those things may in fact be targeted. However, strictly speaking, legally, those are going to be a lot harder to reverse than Roe was. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a lawyer. I've never been to law school, but this is what I found looking into this, because I know a lot of people are panicking about this. And not necessarily wrong. Like, we should be worried, but I don't think we should be panicking, because I'm trying to think of the easy way to explain this. So the measure that was used to overturn Roe is what's called the undue burden standard. And yes, I don't want to get caught up in the weeds of the fact that being forced to have a baby is a pretty friggin' undue burden, but they made the decision that they made, so we have to move on from that, at least in terms of the point I'm trying to get to. So that is a lower standard than the strict scrutiny standard that would have to be applied to trying to reverse a right to contraception or the right of marriage equality. Basically, it has to do with the legal principles that the original decisions that granted these rights were built on. The legal framework used to decide Roe was a framework that required a lower level of scrutiny to undo that. Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry about that. Than the legal framework that was used in the decisions around contraception and marriage equality. And especially with something like marriage equality, that would be incredibly hard to undo. And actually, it's true of contraception as well. But like, to take marriage equality for a second, part of the reason for that is it is not allowed under the 14th Amendment, I believe, to pass a law that is discriminatory towards a gender. And so part of the basis for marriage equality was that if you say that these two people cannot get married because their genders are the same, that is a law that you have passed that is discriminatory towards gender. So because that right is rooted in an argument based directly into plainly stated language in a constitutional amendment, whereas Roe was a bit more of an extrapolation. So a way to think about it is, so a way of comparison that I think people might understand better. Again, assuming I haven't completely screwed up explaining this. Think of the comparison between being sued and being criminally prosecuted. So like O.J. Simpson. He was acquitted of murder because the standard for a criminal trial is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And that is a much higher standard than the civil lawsuit where he was sued for their deaths, the deaths of the two people, Nicole Brown Simpson and I forget the other guy's name, but he was sued for their deaths and he lost in civil court because in civil court, the burden of proof is much lower. It's basically a preponderance of evidence. Is it more likely than not that he is responsible? And the determination was, yes, it is more likely than not that he's responsible. Therefore, he lost in civil court, but he didn't lose in criminal court because the standard was higher. So that's kind of the comparison to make. So that some of the other stuff that Terrence Clements says he wants to go after are things that are held to a higher standard. Now, that's not bulletproof because one of the really frustrating things about the courts, I've gone off on this for a while, like this was going to happen, forgive me. One of the really frustrating things about the court, especially in terms of the scrutiny level that they're supposed to apply, is that it's kind of an honor system. So what I just described is in theory what's supposed to happen. In theory, they are supposed to apply stricter scrutiny to challenges on things that have the kinds of legal basis that marriage equality and the right to contraception have. However, there really isn't a mechanism in place to stop them if more justices are like the theoretical and completely made up Terrence Clements, and they just do the thing they want to do regardless of how much legal scrutiny they are or aren't supposed to apply, and they'll just claim that they applied that scrutiny and just do what they want to do. I don't know if I'm prepared to say that a majority of justices would actually do that, but it's an inherent problem with the court. So, like, some of what we're dealing with right now with the court, with the fact that it's a lifetime appointment, it's unelected, and the only way to remove them is they either retire or they get impeached, and only one Supreme Court justice has ever been impeached. And it's actually even harder to impeach a justice than to impeach the president because there's even less laid out in terms of specifics of what qualifies for an impeachment. So the amount of power that the court has, the kinds of things we're dealing with now, and the kind of thing, I just talked about saying it's kind of an honor system. We have to take their word that they're applying the correct amount of scrutiny. The thing is, that was always a problem. That's not a new problem, but it's a bit like the Electoral College. The problems with the Electoral College have always existed. We just didn't do anything about it or even think about doing anything about it until it stopped working. We just assumed, well, it's worked okay up to now, it'll probably be fine. Which is a very stupid way to proceed. That's the entire way that the Democratic Party as a body was treating the abortion rights. Well, yes, they're challenging it. Yes, they're restricting it, but they haven't been able to get rid of it so far, so it'll probably be fine. Fuck you for inaction. If there is a problem, if there is something that can go catastrophically wrong, you fix it before it goes wrong. You don't wait for the damage to happen, which is what happened here. All right, I will now actually move on with the questions. I'm still in the Discord. I'll try and speed up through the ones I've got left. In over many of your videos, you have multiple different glasses frames. Prescription frames? If so, where? How do you get them? I'm thinking of getting a second set of glasses on the cheap in femme-style frames versus my somewhat gender-neutral frames with clip-on glasses. Zenni Optical, Zenni. I am not sponsored. I would like to be. I love their stuff. It is quite affordable. How would you feel about giving people the ability to vote for someone not to win an election? Like, suppose someone really wants Trump not to be president, but they also don't particularly want to vote for Biden. What if they could go into the booth and just cast a negative vote for Trump that would cancel out one of his votes in the final count? That thought came to me earlier when I was thinking about the fact that a lot of people dislike Biden but didn't want the GOP back in power. I kind of wish there was a way for them to express that democratically. It's an interesting idea, but it has an inherent flaw in that it makes it much, much, much easier for there not to be a clear majority victor. So, like, let's go theoretically. If we had a system like that in place and Trump lost because of all the negating votes, and as a result, Biden only had the support of like 5% of the population who actually voted for him in the affirmative, but he wins anyways, just because the other guy was impacted so negatively. I think that creates very similar problems, frankly, to what we've already got. A positive question. I started using VVER as personal pronouns for the moment. I read Greg Egan's Diaspora, which is not the first in that author's famous series of complex, hard sci-fi, cyberpunk fiction from the 90s. As being in my 30s makes me an ancient gay these days. I'm 40. Shut up. How do we reassure younger folks that fiction can be a positive escape? Make recommendations for them. Give them stuff that helped you. Make recommendations. And also understand if they kind of turn it down, because you can't really hold it against people if they're going to go, stop giving me an escape, the world is still burning. And that's where some people are right now. The shirt you're wearing in the thumbnail, how do you actually feel about less than peaceful resistance to the statuesque, if you can say, while staying terms of service? Okay, so in terms of the shirt, here, queer and ready to riot, there have never been fundamental rights, human rights, that had previously been denied. They have never been earned without some harsh action. Now, whether that harsh action is throwing a brick at an authority figure, or whether that harsh action is allowing yourself to be beaten by police as the world watches, these things are not earned easily or peacefully. They're not. They're just not. And I think in a lot of ways, the right to marry, in some ways, in terms of the mentality that it instilled, actually did some serious damage. Because that was the last major victory, civil rights victory, that the left kind of had. And it felt like, because like the original Pride movement had, started so long ago, and it felt like gays were largely accepted. And that right was generally decided by the court on the merits of a case, as opposed to legislation. It felt like it happened without extreme action, ignoring, the kind of extreme action that kicked off gay rights in the first friggin' place. But that's how it felt. And I think it instilled this thing that Obama said, I forget exactly what it was, but it's something like the curve of history bends towards justice. And that's bullshit. It's bullshit. There is this sense on the left that if we can just wait them out, justice is a natural state for the world to enter, and it's not. It has to be fought for. However, it's possible to fight for it. Fight for it in courts, in legislations, and if necessary, with heavy objects. That is not me encouraging random acts of vandalism or violence. I am saying, however, that historically, these things are not, will not, and have never been given to us. We have to fight for them. And when they try and take them away, we have to fight to keep them. One of my favorite books I've read in the last few years is called How Nonviolence Protects the State. Nonviolence benefits the status quo. Because nonviolence, while it can work, it usually requires very specific circumstances, or it is insanely slow. Which we need change now. Do you think your video about the BBC being privatized will be outdated if, as seems increasingly likely, the Tories finally lose control of the British government at some point between now and 2027? I hope it'll be outdated. That would be lovely. I don't have much faith in Labour under Keir Starmer, but if they get into power, I would hope they at least stop the selling off of our government institutions for a while, even if though they should really start renationalizing stuff if they get in power. Well, see, that's part of the problem with the left political parties. I'm going to say that. This is less a problem with the left as a position and more a problem with the left in terms of the actual party. So Labour, Democrat, etc., which is that it has been a very long time since the left has actually campaigned on changing anything. Generally, what they do is they look at everything that the conservatives and the right are trying to strip away from people and going, we're not going to take that from you. I mean, like, good, but are you actually going to do anything? Are you going to improve anything? Are you going to give us anything more? Or are you just going to not actively hurt us? And that's kind of all most of them have been doing for a while, which is why there's so much disillusionment on the left. Well, it's one of the reasons anyways. Given how freeing cosplay, Ren Fair, play acting is for a lot of queer people, how long before non-essayists recognize that Ren Fair goers and costume nerds are probably better at costume design modification than people who only know the other crafts involved in live theater or theatrical productions? I mean, kind of depends on where you go. There's certainly a lot of, like, if you get into the local level with things like community theater, you'll probably find some overlap in some places between Ren Fair goers and, like, community theater costumers and things like that. But, you know, it's just a question of how accepted the nerds are, I suppose. What would you say to someone who thinks it's too dangerous to hold public pride events because they create easy targets for right-wing mass shooters? Carry a brick. That is the point of terrorism, which, let's be very clear, anyone on the right trying to enact violence on the left is committing terrorism because their intent is to put a population in a state of fear. And the strongest way to have that not win is to not let them drive us underground. More than a desire to actually shoot us up, they want to not ever have to look at us again. There's only so many elements on the right that actually want queer people dead. There are some. There are absolutely some. But most of the right just wants us back in the closet. They don't ever want to see us again. They don't want us on the street. They don't want us to be publicly proud. We are at a point, it's funny, probably about 12 years ago, I wrote a blog, which is not up online anymore. But I wrote a blog questioning whether Pride was still helpful in terms of its purpose as protest. Because that was a point in time, and I was also young enough and experienced enough to think that, boy, it sure seems like people accept queer people just fine as is. Are we coming off as abrasive? That's a position that I very strongly no longer hold, because we are absolutely, unquestionably at a point in time again where us simply being out and present and public, that is already a form of protest. That is us saying we will not go back into the goddamn closet. And I won't be pushed there. And I don't, anyone who feels personally unsafe, you are not obligated to go out to these events. However, these events have become once more the acts of defiance that they originally started as, because they are trying to make us disappear. And public pride events is us saying, we will not. I've seen lots of people getting mad that the Democrats for not codifying Roe v. Wade into law during the times they were in power. I don't want to argue the Democrats aren't kind of useless. But when people say that, are they failing to understand that until very recently, being pro-life wasn't viewed as an exclusively far-right position? Like, the Democrats have had a supermajority twice since Roe, and both times it was only with pro-life Democrats getting them over the line. I do think people fail to take that into consideration, but the thing is, even the pro-choice Democrats, especially when you get to the Senate, you get a few more firebrands in the House, like your AOCs. But once you get to the Senate, they are so middle of the road and so milquetoast and just so nothing. Yeah, I deal with the Democrats because they're what I'm stuck with. I don't have a lot of use for them, though. You'd love Trey Crowder. Oh, that was Liberal Redneck on YouTube, wasn't he? I think. He was good. I liked him. I haven't checked out his stuff in a while. All right. I'm getting towards the end of these. More people posted more stuff. I did say I wasn't going to address stuff that was put in the Discord after I started answering these questions. So I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. If it's something you really desperately want me to address, you can try putting it in the general chat once I'm back to the main chat window, or do it as a super chat. But I said I was going to have a cutoff, and I'm gonna. And next time, I'm putting in the rule that questions have to be submitted before the stream starts, because this is taking up a lot more time than it used to. What's wrong with Lightyear's premise? I watched Toy Story as a kid. I did kind of wonder where Buzz believed he was from. I mean, like, as someone who didn't watch Toy Story as a kid, I just don't understand the instinct to take a character, a beloved character, and completely remove them from the context in which they were beloved, and also give them a completely different personality and voice. At that point, it's not even just transporting the character to a different setting. It's a different character. So what's the point? I don't get it. Ryan Gosling's bootleg Shudigatwa Doctor Who shirt thing was crazy. That I have not seen. I may have to check that. I've recently binged all of season 1 of Arcane and was wondering if you had a favorite character from it. It might be Silco. He's a really good villain. He's really good. I like him a lot. But they're all good. It's such a good cast of characters in that. This is the last one. Then I'm back in the main chat. With regard to the Umbrella Academy, should an actor's own gender identity or sexuality inform how you write the characters they play? Like, if you played a character, do you have the right to expect them to reflect your own queer or straight status? Okay, so I'm gonna answer that in 2 ways. 1, to the specifics of the Umbrella Academy, and 2, broadly speaking. So with the specifics of the Umbrella Academy, Elliot Page was willing to come back and continue to play the character as he had played her previously. It was actually the showrunner who was like, I want to change this to accommodate you. So this was kind of done in conjunction. It was something that the creator kind of wanted to do for him, which I think was very nice. And the interesting side effect of that is because the scripts had already been written when Elliot came out, the changes were just little bits of dialogue here and there. They didn't have the time to rewrite the scripts and make it a more deeply rooted, integrated part of the story. And I actually think it's better for it. So we kind of got a happy accident with that one. Now, broadly speaking, that really is a case-by-case basis, and it's going to depend on the actor in question. Because some actors will be comfortable playing something that does not match their gender identity, or maybe even matches an identity that they transitioned out of. So like I did voice work for Dominic Martin for a Doctor Who fan audio last year. And I played a cisgender male character. And I was fine to do that. I didn't have any discomfort to do that. And I'd be happy to do voice work at least as a cis male character again. So a big part, like it's one of the things you have to be careful about making assumptions about, because it comes up when the conversation about should with queer people playing queer characters, and you shouldn't have straight cis people playing queer characters, etc. One of the things that is so frequently assumed by people who push back on some of these principles is that, well, what if there are some scenes prior to the transition? Well, the trans actor is going to have dysphoria. You don't know that. Some will, yes, but not all. Different actors have different comfort levels. And that should theoretically be taken into account when they are auditioning or putting themselves forward or being asked to play any given part. So I stick to my general principle that I want to see queer people playing queer characters, ideally ones that match their own identity. If an actor is willing and has no issue playing a cis straight character, you're not obligated to change it to match that. If you make the decision that you want to because you think they'll be able to play it even better if it matches their identity, that's fine too. But as long as the actor is comfortable with however it is that it's been scripted, I'm fine as far as that goes. And yes, to reiterate, I am okay with queer people playing cisgender and heterosexual characters. I am not okay with cis people playing trans characters, especially, or cis straight people playing queer characters in general. I'm a little bit softer on straight people playing gay characters. I don't love it. But cis people playing trans people, not okay. It's super not okay. It's actually really damaging right now. So some people call that hypocritical. I've done multiple videos on it, so I won't cover it again here. All right. Apologies to the people who posted more questions in there. I told you I wasn't gonna come back. So, all right, I've got super chats to catch up to. Hang on, let me do these. John Vinyls, thank you very much for the super chat. Stranger Things, hot take: the Soviet Union was bad. The CIA also sucks. How un-American of you to say the CIA sucks. Supreme Omega, thank you for the super chat. Would a more socialist democracy be more ideal? In my mind, it would be. Would it be perfect? No, because humans are imperfect creatures and we will never come up with a perfect system. But I think what we've got right now is fundamentally broken in a lot of ways. And democratic socialism, I certainly agree with a lot more of the principles of democratic socialism than I do with whatever the hell it is that we have going on here. Tiki Dragon 1, thank you so much. The people should vote for justices, otherwise we get crap like this. I'm not necessarily sure So I'm not sure I necessarily agree, because there are other, lower judges can be elected, and that actually causes its own problems. Because, okay, so I'm going to say something that I'm going to have to explain what I mean. having judges be elected injects politics into the court. Now, politics already do exist in the court to the extent that they are political appointees, and obviously they have their own political opinions. But what I mean is the idea that a judge has to court voters and the ways they might do that, if we look at what goes on in lower court elections as a template, no, that would be a nightmare. I do think the lifetime appointment thing is a bad idea. I think if they're going to maintain a lifetime appointment, it should either be easier to remove them or better, just get rid of that. I think it should be, I don't know, I'll pick a number. 20-year term. Let's go with that. 20 years if they live to see the end of that, and then somebody else comes in. My bigger issue is with the lifetime appointment. Now, lifetime appointment combined with unelected, that is a twofer. But if we could get rid of the lifetime appointment part of it, I would have less issue. Head Kittens, thank you for the heart and the super chat. I greatly appreciate that. And Lord Cyber Ram. Vera, I'm okay to identify as the doctor. Thank you for the super chat, doctor. Okay, I'm now actually caught up, and I'm actually looking at the chat itself. Finally. Whew. 20 years would work better than lifetime. Yeah, lifetime appointments in general just aren't a good idea. And like, they're deeply inherently undemocratic by their nature. Like, king is a lifetime appointment. What the hell are we doing with having lifetime appointments? Supreme Court should follow the UK example where they serve till 75 and have to be politically neutral. Well, I mean, theoretically, they're supposed to be politically neutral here as well. They're not, because no human being is politically neutral. But in theory, they are meant to apply the law, but they still have to have their own personal framework with how to apply it. So, like, to take the late and not missed Antonin Scalia, he was an originalist. He believed that what mattered was the original intention by the founding fathers, and that any extrapolations of that, saying, well, they said this and we're going to take that to mean all these other things. He would say, no, it just says this. So from his perspective, basically anything that couldn't be traced to pretty much word for word foundation in the Constitution, he had no use for. Now, that was his judicial framework that he came with. The result of that was that he aligned super big time with conservative ideals, values, and positions. Because even if, I think he was just a conservative in general, but even if he wasn't, and that was just his judicial framework, it still put him in a political context and a political perspective. So the idea of a politically neutral court is frankly kind of naive. Now, you certainly don't want a blatantly political court where they're just like, you're a Democrat, so I'm going to rule against you. Like that. But, you know, that shouldn't be the standard by which we judge what's too far. But, you know, politics exists in the court system whether we like it or not. And pretending, it's one of those things like, it's a fine thing to aim for that to not be the case, but it will always be the case, and we better accept that. I haven't seen Arcane mainly because of two things. One is the fan base and how toxic they can be. Oh, I actually have not engaged with the fan base of Arcane at all, so I can't speak to that. And two, I personally think the animation looks ugly. I get that style. It's not for me. Oh, that's a shame. If you don't like the visual style, give it a pass. I think the visual style is gorgeous in that show, personally. But yeah, if you don't like it, it is meant to be a visual production. I mean, like, it's a visual medium. All things are in TV and streaming. But my point is, you know, they put a lot of effort into those visuals. And if those visuals aren't playing for you, aren't working for you, it's a bit like not liking the performance of a lead actor. That's kind of a reason not to do it. Do I like energy drinks? No, not really. I identify as Mystique. Ha ha ha. I heard you can imitate them perfectly. Even their voice. Even their voice. So why don't you pretend all the time? You know, look like them. Because we shouldn't have to. Supreme Court justices should not be politically appointed. It's shocking the U.S. does this, as most countries have judiciary and government as independent. Yeah, our appointment system isn't great. The problem is, at this point, the work that would have to be done to disentangle those things and make the judiciary not even politically appointed, it's bigger change than is going to happen, certainly in my lifetime, if there was even an appetite for it, and there doesn't seem to be. Oh, hey, John. Hey, JVL. It's good to see you. Love the behind-the-scenes vid of the recording room. Was wondering where the stuffed Bebo was. I missed him. He's not down here. Bebo's in my bedroom with the stuffies on my bed. That's where Bebo lives. So you can thank Kay for me again for that. Rusty Ralston, thank you. Chibnall did write Kiss Kiss Gang, Bang Bang. Oh, okay. So that's the best Torchwood thing he ever wrote then. Thank you for confirming that for me. Supremo Mega, once again, thank you. On Trans Rep, do you feel the Game of You arc with the character Wanda and Gaiman's Sandman aged well, or is it too dated, even with good intentions? I think it was quite good for the time, including some things that he admits he got right by accident. So, like, minor spoiler, there's a trans character in the Sandman comics who dies, and one of the characters later goes to her funeral, and it's noted that her mother, who didn't accept her, had her prepared, for the funeral viewing, masculine, had her hair cut, no makeup, and this person who went to go, to this funeral, who knew her as she really was, really saw the tragedy in this. And Gaiman didn't realize that was the thing that actually happened. He wrote it because that's where his narrative and dramatic instincts as a writer took him. And he happened to hit upon a pretty strong truth doing that. I haven't reread Game of You in a while. I suspect that if I ever do, I'm going to find some things to take issue with. But certainly for the time, it was quite good. I suspect that it's probably aged decently, but I suspect if I were to reread it now, I would spot the ways in which, this was written by a cisgender straight guy. A well-meaning one. But I haven't actually reread it in a while, so I couldn't say one way or the other. Wasn't Scalia Catholic? What do the Founding Fathers think of Catholics again? Don't get me started on that. And I always love when they talk about the Founding Fathers. What would the Founding Fathers want? Well, at least one of them said flat out that we should throw out the Constitution and rewrite the entire thing every 20 years or so. Just saying. At Council of Geeks, curse your long name for stealing the vast majority of my allowed 200 characters. I make no apologies. Have I seen the Hocus Pocus 2 teaser? I did. I don't care. That's kind of it. How do you feel about Arcane in the context of it being an ad for Riot Games, who are not good? I don't love the association. I will say, though, that nothing about that show made me want to play the game, especially when I found out how the game works. I'm like, the game is one of those games where, like, the story is all lore. You're not actually playing an active story. And so I'm not sure how good an ad for the games it actually is, since the games aren't very story driven, not like an actual story unfolding. So I don't love the association is there, but I deal with it. Let's see. What are my thoughts on The Princess Bride? It's a classic for a reason. Does Bebo live with Brittany now? No. No. No, Gozer. Brittany is not on the bed with the stuffies. Oh, ye gods. Whew. When I say that I have problems with the fan base of Arcane, I'm talking about the League of Legends fandom, because Arcane is based on, uses character and lore from it. Okay, that makes more sense, because most video game fandoms are super toxic, which is why I don't engage in video game fandoms. It's a crime. They never gave Mystique Claremont's original story for Nightcrawler's origin. I know. For people who don't know, what Chris Claremont wanted to do, because of Mystique's shape-shifting powers, he wanted Mystique to be not Nightcrawler's mother, as she was eventually revealed to be, but to be Nightcrawler's father. Had with Mystique's female love interest, Destiny. I'm still bitter they didn't let him do that. I'm not surprised, given that this was, what, the 80s? But I'm bitter. Would you like me to pose a 5-limit question on myself in regards to the Discord? I do that in other contexts where it puts creators in an awkward position because I ask so many. If you're willing... 255 AD, actually, I would appreciate it. If you're willing to do that, yeah, actually, that would be helpful. If Bebo in your bedroom, just like Nate. Bebo loves you. Oh, hey, Jesse. Look at you sneaking in. And that got gurgly there. That got, like, gremlin-esque. Hold on. Bebo loves you. People want cuddles. Almost done. We're almost there. Yeah, I love and hate that storyline in Sandman. Yeah, again, I suspect if I were to reread it, I'd be like, oh, this bit's good, but It's been a while, though. I reread Game of You last year. It holds up decently for the most part, but for the time it was great. Yeah, that's about what I expect. Thoughts on Adrift? It was the Torchwood episode where the people were going missing and Jack was keeping them in an island because they've gone insane. It's one of my favorite Chibnalls. Is that one with Jack's brother? I remember hating that. Like that aspect. I hate secret siblings. They're almost never good. Let's see. Where was I? I don't really remember Adrift very well, if I'm being honest. Bieber loves Britney. Oh, God, no! No! JBL, no! Don't do that. Vera, while you were on Discord, it was requested you amplified the need to delete period trackers. Yes. Any apps that you use to help you monitor your reproductive health, you need to delete them immediately. Because in areas where abortion is criminalized to the point that prosecutors have the freedom to prosecute not only the doctors performing the procedures, but on the people who have those procedures, the data from those tracking apps can be subpoenaed and used in court as evidence. Delete them immediately. What are my thoughts on the Casper movie? It's just kind of dumb. I haven't watched it in ages. My oldest plays League of Legends, says it's very fun game, but toxic fan base. I mean, this is why I don't play competitive multiplayer. They get that way very, very quickly. I'm sorry. Remember cats? You do now. How am I? I'm okay. All things together. Do you know the lyrics to Where the Spaceballs? I used to. I don't anymore. Loki and Mystique walk into a bar. I dig it. Oh, and John Vinyls, thank you for the super chat. Let me see. Did you know there's a comic relief special where the 11th Doctor straight up says he had sex with a nun? I think I missed that one. If I saw it, I don't remember it. No, it's not the one with Jack's brother. Okay. All right. I think I did like it then. A lot of Torchwood has blurred together, and what sticks out is unfortunately mostly the bad stuff. Strum Dynasty. Hello there. I would love to see a video with you tearing down the Disney quote-unquote groomer nonsense more. It persists, and you tend to do a good job addressing this crap. Yeah, we're at a point where the word groomer is almost useless trying to use it for its actual original intended meaning because of the way it is being deployed as a political weapon at this point. Especially just against not only queer people, but their allies. And I don't have the spoons right now to dig into that topic any more than I already have. I am glad that you think I've done good in addressing this kind of thing, but it's a topic worth addressing, and I might, but at least in the immediate future, I don't have the spoons. I was wondering if someone was going to have to explain in the chat what the deal with Britney was. Let's see. Now that we know Bebo loves Britney, that explains the purple goo. Oh no! Knit and crochet tiger. How dare you? Giving them a heart very. Yes. Thank you for that. Lewis Ward. Engage mutual blinking. Wish I knew Morse code. Could have made a joke out of that. Let's see. You can be compelled by police to unlock phone with biometrics, but cannot be compelled to provide passcodes. Stay safe, y'all. Yes, that is also true. So if you normally have it set up with face recognition or fingerprint scan, what you do if you are saying being pulled over by the police or stopped, turn your phone off, like shut it down, because when you restart it, it's going to require the passcode and to basically start up the biometric options again. Or you can just disable those as unlocking tactics. Have I been backpacking before? Over multiple days? No, just day hikes. Mystique as Nightcrawler's father. Well, my childhood is now in shambles. Thanks, Vera. Kidding, I'm not against that being in the movies. Just it'll take some getting used to. Unfortunately, Logan, it's not canon. Wish it was, but it's not. All right, I am going to wrap it up. You know what? We're close enough to 9. We'll wrap it up on the hour. Can we see your archery title you won over the weekend? You've been practicing by piercing all our hearts. Well, what I won, you can't, unfortunately, because what I won was a short bow that I gave to Liz, because I still have the long bow that I won from the last time I won that tournament. So, my sign of victory is currently in the possession of my partner, so that we are now both armed. Leave Brittany alone. But sheeps and pets need to be groomed. Oh, God. Yeah. Headcanon is better than canon. Often it can be. Lewis Ward, thank you very much. I'm off to bed. But remember, you're beautiful. You're valid. You're loved. We may be the council, but you're the reason we come to the channel. Thank you. Thank you for that. Vera as Hawkeye. I'm not that good, but apparently I'm quite good by the local standards. Do I practice archery regularly? No, I don't have space to do it. First of all, I need to get the longbow restrung, and I actually do have a target, but my yard's not big enough. Well, I'll revise that. My yard is big enough in terms of I do have enough space, but like it would still be unsafe because I have enough space to put a proper amount of distance between the target and myself. However, what I'm lacking is a safe place for wild arrows to go. So there's nowhere that I can put the target that wouldn't result in a wild arrow either hitting the house or flying into somebody else's yard. So that's the problem. It's less that my yard isn't big enough in that I have neighbors. So no, I don't practice regularly. I picked up archery from the day camp I went to when I was in grade school. I would go to a day camp near my grandparents, and they had archery, and that's where I got into it. But no, I don't practice regularly, which I would like to. That to me basically says to me, I could be better than I am. And I'm already 2 for 2 at winning archery tournaments at the local Ren Fair. So I could be even better. Hold on. The couple that fletches together stays together. Have you ever listened to Doctor Who fan audios? Only a couple. Not a ton. Like, I haven't even had time to listen to all the Big Finish that I own. Much less listen to all the fan audios. I did a review of one. I actually got commissioned to do a review of one just last month, I think, in the break room of Geeks. And obviously I was in one, and I listened to the other ones that that Dominic Martin, Who Chaser, produced. I'd recommend those, but I don't have I haven't listened to that many. Can they even be well written or deep enough to trigger me? Oh, but just make me doubt them. See, the thing is, if you can find good performers, you don't need a big budget to do decent audio. You need some know-how, to do proper audio editing. But raw cost, if everybody's contributing their time, i.e., you're not paying the actors, you can do a lot. Did the overturn also kill a big privacy protection law? Not that I know of. It has created a situation where privacy protection now appears very vulnerable to future challenges. But I don't believe that the decision in and of itself overturned that. Archery in private yards is illegal where I live, which it probably should be. Sounds like you need to join a shooting club or take your bow to their range. I gotta find out what there is around here because I suspect most archery ranges would be at things that are also gun ranges, and I don't really want to be around guns. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. I need to. Most toxic fandom of all time? No idea. It's an ongoing competition. There will never be a victor. We all lose. Last question from me. Have you considered checking out other reviews before posting your own because you might miss something because you didn't pick up on it or some such, No. No, because in my mind, if I miss something, then if people want to say that's on me, that's fine. I'll own that. If I put out a review and people point out, but you completely missed blah, I'm prepared to own up to that. My ego is not so fragile that I can't deal with that. And I don't like... I always worry about my opinions being shaped and tainted by other people's, or failing that my review will become a response to somebody else's review as opposed to a review of the thing itself. So no, I never check out other reviews. Not on purpose anyways. It happens by default whenever I watch like older stuff. I may have encountered reviews or be aware of the general reception. But like for stuff that just came out, like new episodes of Doctor Who, etc., no, I never look at other people's reactions before shooting mine. Ever, ever, ever. Could we recommend The Woman Under the Roof? Yes. Yes. You can recommend Woman Under the Roof. Woman Under the Roof is a really good, very interesting Doctor Who fan audio that's also a tough listen, but for good reasons. But it is a bit of a tough listen. Wolf359 is a podcast that I think does really well in audio format despite very limited resources like bad audio quality and limited cast related to the audio thing. Like, if you know how to work within your limitations, you'd be surprised what can happen. Excuse me. I would go shooting arrows with you. I can look into areas around both of us to see if there's a non-shooting range option. I'll be there. Like, we need to hang out in general. We haven't seen each other in friggin' ages. But yeah. Did I have a sweet tooth as a kid? No more than usual, I don't think. Kenobi, my review for the last episode is up, and it has my thoughts on the thing as a whole. Are you following the new season of The Boys? I haven't watched The Boys. I don't like Garth Ennis. And I've heard people say that, like, it's better than his writing tends to be, or at least by the second season it is, but I just don't like the work of the guy who wrote the original piece. And at this point now, it's 3 seasons in. I'm like, I've just got other stuff I'd rather watch. I was joking. I wrote the story. I know that. You didn't have to tell them. I knew that. I was in on it with you. If you lived in Zootopia, what kind of animal would you be? Squirrel. I'm sure you don't watch Strange New Worlds. I don't. But there's a trans femme NB character in one episode, and she's awesome, can be sexy villain. I've heard very good things about Strange New Worlds. I might, zero promises, I might check that one out simply because it's a brand new show, so I don't have to go back and catch up on multiple seasons. No promises, but that's a maybe. Best Chibnall Who meme. You're doing it, mate. Benny or Evil Dan. I don't know. I kind of like, you're doing it, mate. I don't know. I kind of like that one. Oh, I was kidding about the woman under the roof thing, but thank you for answering, though. No, it was a good piece. It was really well done, was really well performed. And I know that because it was hard to listen to. Because with the material it was tackling, it should have been, and it was. 5 minutes. Thank you, Carolyn, for the warning. Well, I'm done for today. See you next time. Remember, no matter what anyone may say, you are loved, and screw Garth Ennis. ADHD squad here. We'd all be squirrels. Yeah, pretty much. Strange New World is Mo's favorite Star Trek now. We watch it every week. We can zoom you in. It is so amazing. I have a means to see it, but I would have to back up and I'm just I've got 3 things that I really need to get done before I start sinking into, something that would eat up a decent amount of time. And I really got to start getting that stuff done. These were actual lyrics. Magneto's hordes are on the way to pillage, burn, and plunder. But there's one hero that's here to stay, the team that strikes with thunder. Ah, Lord. That's... Ooh. Let's see. Your favorite character in Arcane is Victor. Victor, like, they're all good. There really isn't a bad character in that show. Which video do I regret making the most? I'm not sure I regret making anything. The closest I'd come to regret is maybe the Inside Number 9 videos. Not because I have any regret about anything I said about it, but because of the hatred of a fandom that I didn't realize was full of assholes descending on me because I had a couple of criticisms here and there. I regret stepping into that not knowing what I was getting into. That's what I regret. I don't regret what I said. I don't even really regret watching the show, although that fandom did put me off ever watching it anymore. But dog person or cat person? I like dogs a little better. I do like cats, though. I like both. Think Reva will get a spinoff? She's clearly been positioned to be able to have one. I don't know, though. It's a tough call. We're about to wrap up. So we've got another super chat. Any more super chats coming in? This is your chance. We are wrapping up very, very soon. Currently gonna blast the song Hope, the country song from Estonia, all night long. Good night. Whatever gets you through, Rusty. Absolutely. Imagine a new show ruining your childhood, the privilege. Just that whole idea is, your head's got to be so far up your own ass. Thoughts on Chris Pratt, his acting and his celebrity image. His acting is find in the right place. He can either be grating or endearing, depending on the framing of the character. He's endearing in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's grating in Jurassic World. And it's effectively the same damn character. A lot of it has to do with framing. He's pretty limited as an actor. And that's not the same as being a bad actor. He's decent at what he does, but what he does is pretty limited. As far as his celebrity image, I've not gotten on the Chris Pratt hate train, largely because, honestly, the connections being made between him and the anti-queer church that he was supposedly affiliated with are kind of shaky and thin and always have been. And the degree of certainty that people speak about, well, he believes this, and I look into it and I'm like, yeah, maybe, but you speak with such authority that you're certain that he thinks X, and I can't find it. So honestly, his public image makes me uncomfortable, not because of him, but because of how dead certain some people are about what they think he does or doesn't think. I've started showing Inside Number 9 to my new support worker, so I have rewatched that episode. Hope you had fun. Hope you had more fun than I did. Too many Disney Plus shows. Too many of all shows. It's all too much. Am I non-binary or female? I am gender fluid, which is a non-binary identity. I do consider myself to be trans femme. I'm not a woman, nor am I a trans woman. Trans femme, meaning that my transition has brought me into a more feminine space. My general sense of self is more feminine leaning, although I do still have more sort of neutral, gender neutral days. I don't really have much of a connection to my masculinity anymore, but I consider myself gender fluid. That is a non-binary identity. It is also a trans identity, but I am not a trans woman. Oh, Chris Pratt is mostly a tool, it seems. Saw a great essay on how he represents the military-industrial complex. On how he does or how the characters he plays do. Because there is a difference. Like, you can decide whether or not that difference is splitting hairs, but there is a difference. Okay, that's it. Last two grapes. Oh. And we're done. Ran this for an hour longer than originally planned. So, let's wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. We did cover some heavy stuff, but I think we also got to have some fun, which I'm really appreciative for. Twitch. Thank you, Carwin. Twitch tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to get back into Pyre, I think. So I'll resume playing Pyre. And I'll definitely play that this week. I might start playing Pyre on my own time and switch to something else next week. Steam had a massive sale, so I've now got like a bunch of games to try out. So next week I might do something else, but this week it's going to be Pyre. So you can join me on Twitch for that. Also tomorrow in the break room of Geeks, there will be my review of actually what will be the latest episode of Ms. Marvel and the one from last week because I was on vacation and didn't talk about that. But that should cover it, I think, for the immediately coming up stuff. Saturday's video is going to be on how trauma is currently being used to inform villainy as a trope in storytelling. So that'll be Saturday. I shot that today. Got to edit that. And I think that should about covered it. And usual stuff, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, blah, 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 do. So, thank you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Please remember that you are beautiful, you are valid, you are loved. You are the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. McCavity!